Welcome to the December 4th meeting of the 2013 meeting of the Falmouth Conservation Commission. First on the agenda are minutes, November 15th.
Madam Chairman, I've read the minutes, find them substantially correct, but have one request.
One request, which
One
is?
request. One request is on page 9, 63 Quonset Road. I believe I had no comments and it's not reflected.
I didn't do those, Mike. I wasn't.
Okay,
Oh, but we'll pass it on.
yeah, there you go.
Okay, and you want to make a motion?
I make a motion to accept the minutes as modified.
Which day? As what?
November 20th?
November 15th.
No, that was November 15th.
November 15th,
Second.
What, accept the minutes?
as with correction.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Oh, they were Monday.
They were, I was going to say, they certainly look like yours. Unanimous,
Yeah,
so
that's so
moved.
good. I did
Oh,
good.
that's the 20th. I thought you said the 15th.
I did say the 15th.
Oh, okay.
So-
Those are Monday. You put the correction numbers there?
Which one do we?
No, it's
that's
it's
my
on
comment.
page 7 or something.
9.
9.
The minutes of, oh, okay, we're starting again. We'll
Yeah.
cancel that vote. The minutes of November 15th, has anybody read those? I think they came to us by email.
Yeah, I'm having her put hard copies in the packets.
Okay, the November 15th and November 19th, we're going to postpone till next week. Now, November 20th, would you like to make a motion about November 20th?
Deja vu all over again. I'd like to accept I recommend we accept the minutes with a minor correction as indicated on page 9.
Second.
Okay, all in favor of the motion on the table, which is to accept the minutes of November 20th with the minor correction, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous, so moved. Okay, request for determination of applicability. 54 East Harbor Drive, Kara Cynthia Hines, 54 East Harbor Drive, Falmouth, for permission to enclose the existing deck to create three-season sunroom, replace existing concrete footings with 10-inch sonotubes. Jen?
Madam Chairman, I reviewed the project and I'm recommending a -2 from the state of bylaw with the associated boundaries.
So move. Second.
Okay, any questions on the board? Any questions from the audience? Are you here for an RDA?
What's an RD?
For, no, you're not. You're here for a notice. You're here with Mike. You're here with them.
Yeah.
Okay.
Dan's here for an argument.
Dan's here for an RDA, but not this RDA. Okay, if you get a negative determination, the bottom line is, if you get a negative determination, that means you can go ahead with what you want to do. But that's what you're not here for. But should you ever be here for that?
Thank you.
Are there any questions from the audience? Okay, motion on the table to accept staff's recommendation of a negative determination. This is for 54 East Harbor Drive. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous, so moved. You're here for this one. Martha Latigue. No, he is, Dan. 165 Fay Road, for permission to relocate the path to beach with a private right-of-way and restore existing path with native vegetation.
Again, Madam Chairman, we've reviewed the project, we're recommending a -2 under the state and the bylaw with the resource area boundaries not confirmed.
So move.
Second?
Any questions on the board? Any questions from the audience? Not even any comments? Okay, all in favor of the motion on the table, which is to accept staff's recommendation of a negative determination, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
And one abstention.
Any abstention?
Present.
Okay. Is yours really an abstention, or are you recusing yourself?
Well, I didn't know how that would work.
No,
I can
you recuse yourself.
I can recuse myself.
yourself, because an abstention is equivalent to a no vote.
Then I recuse myself from the vote. Thank you.
You're welcome. Request for hearings under a notice of intent. All hearings of the Falmouth Conservation Commission are heard simultaneously under the authority of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Falmouth Wetlands Bylaw. Although a single decision is issued, it represents a separate decision under each authority. Bye, Dan.
Hi, Dan.
Stephen Van Tol, 53 Toby Lane, East Falmouth, for permission to remove and replace the existing pier, ramp, and float with fixed pier within the same footprint. Jen?
Yes, Madam Chairman, I'll say the name.
Good evening, Mike.
Madam Chairman, good evening.
Thank you.
Get the phones.
Madam Chairman, members of the board, my name is Michael Borselli from Falmouth Engineering, and I represent the applicant, Stephen Van Tol. Mr. Van Tol owns a property at 53 Toby Lane. It's on the waters of Eel Pond in East Falmouth, and the family has owned the existing single-family dwelling in this property for several decades. There's an existing dock system there that consists of a timber walkway, ramp, and floats, and it's been there since the early 1950s, and it has never had a Chapter 91 license. So Mr. Van Tol had approached me to go through a licensing process with DEP, and when we reviewed the property, I suggested to him that there was a lot of room for improvement to that dock system. It really probably wouldn't be acceptable to you folks in the current state it was in, and that we needed some acknowledgement of the dock from you before we go to Chapter 91. And I didn't think you'd have any favorable recommendations for that dock in its current situation, so I convinced him to apply on the notice of intent to improve the dock before we go for Chapter 91 licensing, and he agreed, and so we're here tonight hoping to get approval from you to rebuild this dock in its same footprint, but to improve it. And the way that we hope to improve it is to eliminate several of the things that you would not allow for a new dock if you were applying for a new dock for the first time. Number one, and the most obvious thing that I saw was that the floating dock sections, the ones closest to shore, are actually bottoming out, and there's no separation from the bottom at low tide. The float system doesn't allow any sunlight penetration to any vegetation. The access walkway that crosses the salt marsh doesn't have sunlight penetration decking on it. It isn't elevated above the salt marsh. It doesn't allow for public access under it or over it. So there's a whole bunch of obvious things that make this dock substandard. So what we're hoping to do is get permission to completely remove that dock system and put in a more traditional dock system that's completely elevated and meets standards that, today. By elevated, I mean if you refer to the profile, we're now going to have the walkway system elevated above the salt marsh and above mean-high water by 5 feet for public access. That's a requirement of Chapter 91. Or you have to provide access stairs up and over the walkway, and we opted to do this instead. It's better for the salt marsh. Also, we're proposing to put 50% light penetration decking on the dock instead of what exists today, which is basically just deck material, timber deck material. And then the balance of the dock will continue to be a fixed structure with no floats, and it will eliminate any of the bottoming out of the float system and smothering any of the bottom vegetation. The application proposes to install 6x6 posts for the two sections that are in the upland area, and then proposes to use the traditional timber pilings, 10-inch diameter, spaced, to support the walkway. And then the dock will be in the same footprint, it'll just be vastly improved over what currently exists. We got one letter, I'm sorry, from Division of Marine Fisheries with limited comments or suggestions. They suggested one thing, that is this one piling that's close to the salt marsh. They suggested that it would be better to move it further from the salt marsh so that it wouldn't damage the salt marsh during installation, and so that rack and other debris wouldn't collect around it and affect the salt marsh. So we're certainly happy to do that. I think that pretty much sums up my proposed plan, and I'm here to answer any questions.
Okay, thanks, Mike. Jen?
We're going to need proof of the grandfathering statement. It's just not going to cut it. The board is always required some proof. So if you have that, that would be.
I have some proof.
Well, I can't review the proof now.
No, I'm going to submit it for the record, just so you have
Okay,
it.
I'll determine whether or not
Yep.
it's proof enough.
Sure, if you want me to give it to you?
Second of all, yes, please.
I just want to tell you what it is. It's some photos of the dock at various times back from 1957, 65.
Okay.
And if we have to come up with all the proof like letters
Email.
back there.
Next time, submit this with the application, Mike. These are photos, they're not aerials?
We don't have aerials. We just have dated photos. I can try to get an aerial, I just don't have one at the time. I have to do some research to get the aerial photo.
Okay. You know, we're relying on, we're relying on stickies on photos.
Well, there's dates on the borders that came on the film, on the actual photos. At least on the one from 65, and then I mean, you can tell from the vintage of the photos. I'll do my best to try to get some.
I understand, but you have to understand that this position is a board position, grandfathering. You know, you have to prove with it that it's a continuous use. That's a tough hurdle to prove. It's not meant to, you know, be easy. You have a structure out there that doesn't have a Chapter 91 license, and, you know, I always try to work with people that have valid licenses. So if this doesn't have a valid license, it should, if the board wants to consider it grandfathered, fine, but I would say that it should have a T-section at the end instead of allowing for a mooring field of 2 boats. And also probably should meet the current performance standard. So that's something that the board will have to discuss, because you have, and why that's concerning me is because your lowest section of the platform is 12 feet long.
Yes.
What kind of boat do they tie there now?
He has like
I mean,
a 22-foot center console, in that range, like an 18-foot center console.
So an 18-foot center console. So I'm just remembering the issues on the last fixed pier in shallow water we had.
Right, in fact, one of the reasons that the last section of this pier is proposed to have 12-foot on-center spacing for the very reason that I think Jen's alluding to.
Okay.
If you don't have tie-off pilings, I had a previous application where we tried to get tie-off pilings because the piles were spaced out at like 16 or 18 feet, and what happens is the boat sometimes will tilt and the gunnel on the stern corner will get underneath and you can't properly tie it. So the only way, unless you have tie-off pilings, is to make the pile spacing a little bit tighter so that the boat tied with spring line and things can't move to a point where the gunnel gets underneath. So in this layout, the final section, which is where the boat ties, is proposed to have 12-inch on-center Eventually, yeah.
Then why don't you take them and then submit them, copy them in color and then submit them to us? I don't want to be responsible for old family photos that they may want back.
Okay.
But those are the only comments I have, Mike. Next time, just try to submit some aerials if you can find them. I know it's a floating dock system, it's hard to when they're not in the water.
Well, I'll do my best.
Okay.
The other thing that your grandfathering provisions allow for letters of attestation. If I can't get an aerial, I'm gonna have to get letters from neighbors or things like that. You know, if I can't produce the aerial, that doesn't mean it didn't exist, it's just.
Do the best you can.
Do the best we can. I'm not a big fan of affidavits.
I'm not either, only if I can't produce the aerial, sometimes it's a problem to get an aerial because the clothes are seasonal.
Okay. Well, the board can decide, looking at the photos, if that's enough grandfathering evidence for them. I mean, what was it, a 57, 65, and
And 75. And I have ones from the 90s too, but.
that's gonna be your decision? Okay.
And it's the same family who's been there.
Yes. They acquired it in the 50s.
I think that's a lot of conversation.
I had a conversation with the man who lives
So my
there.
only concern would be the use of both sides of that dock. If you're making a much more substantial and solid structure.
They have historically tied 2 boats there, just so you know. No, I can probably come up with
That's it, Mike.
it. Thank you.
Courtney?
Yeah, I think the fact that it doesn't have a license, we see that it's pre-existing, but, I mean, this is what you're trying to do, and what our goal should be is to have this thing meet our current standards, one of which is having 3 feet of water. So, you know, if you're saying that where you're gonna moor your boats is in 2 feet of water or 2.4 feet of water, then that doesn't meet the performance standard. So I kind of agree with Jen that maybe you need to address that. I'll leave it at that.
I could address that if you don't mind, Madam Chairman.
Yeah, go on.
One of the things we worry about when we try to license existing docks or rebuild them is, you know, if you pass the test of grandfathering, arguably you do your best to meet the standards, but sometimes you can't. There have been some cases where that was the case, so we proposed to make the dock longer. And I'm thinking of one case in particular that I won't name, but when we proposed to make it longer, it triggered us to do a shellfish survey. As soon as you make it bigger, you need to, outside the footprint, you have to do a shellfish survey. And the shellfish survey revealed in the area where we were making it longer, there were shellfish. So it kind of was counterproductive, because then this board didn't want to approve the dock that was longer. In fact, to allow them to build it in its footprint that it had been in. So we're sensitive to that, and it's expensive to do shellfish surveys, and sometimes the results of the shellfish survey don't give you the results that everyone would be happy with. Now, that all being said, if you look on the plan, the water depth at the end, or the terminal end, is 3 feet or greater at low tide.
That's not where you put the boats.
No, I know, and I'm not trying to argue, but I'm saying that your regulation does say 3 feet of water at the terminal end. Now, we usually see T's, so it makes sense, because the boat would be tied this way. This isn't a T. If we were to make it a T, in the T formation or this formation, there's 3 feet of water at low tide at the terminal end. The T would make
Mike,
it.
come on,
So the
you
T.
know that means where the mooring field is.
Well, I'm just telling you what the regulation says. It says at the terminal end. I mean, I'm not saying we don't want to build a T, but I'm just trying to have a dialogue. It sounds like maybe you want a T, I'll have to report back to my client.
But the reason for it is 3 feet is the minimum amount to keep from having a blowout at the end. But
Under the boat.
under the boat, but no, under where the engine is, that's what's
Yeah.
what causes it. And if, the question is, how does the person tie off the boat here? And when I went in, who visited? You visited too?
I visited.
You visited?
Yeah.
I thought it was with the bow out.
Bow in.
Bow in.
The bow was
Bow
in.
in, well,
All right.
The bow is in fact, the stern projects out, when I was there at least, and not now, I don't think the boat's in, maybe it was.
Yeah,
It
it
wa-
is
it
in.
is.
Well, you would have, the outboard engine or the stern of the boat was projecting past the dock, so the prop was in 3 feet of water. There's no motivation to do it the other way because you're gonna damage your boat, and it doesn't make sense. You just can't get the boat tied properly. So, you know, there is 3
Well,
feet.
it is what it
You
is.
know what, I can't let that go, only because, Mike, I do not want to see docks, have you come in here with docks, where you're putting the boat in one place, but the end of the dock is 3 feet of water. Every engineer that comes before this board, you guys know, when we say terminal end, it means the end of the dock where the boats are being moored.
Jen, he's saying, this is what he has, he wants to replace it as it is, he's just saying where the engine's gonna be.
Okay?
And I'm not disagreeing with Jen. I mean, I can talk to Mr. Van Tol about we're gonna rebuild this, making it a T. I just haven't had that conversation.
Okay.
Because I didn't wanna get into a situation where making it a T triggered me to do a shellfish survey, and then discover the shellfish, and then, what do we do?
Back where we are.
So that was my thought process.
Okay.
Madam Chair.
Courtney?
You referenced another project. I believe that one had a Chapter 91 license, however, did it not?
Yes.
Okay. So, in a situation like that, I can see where you would be concerned about getting outside of the footprint and then having to essentially treat it as a new thing. But if you don't have a Chapter 91 license, then that's all off the table, you see. In other words, basically, we're starting fresh. So, I mean, in theory, we could require you to have a shellfish survey, even as you now have it designed.
My only response to that, Commissioner Byrd, is I look at your grandfathering provisions, you have a standard for that, and there are many unlicensed docks. To me, an unlicensed dock that is grandfathered really is at the same level of scrutiny as a dock that doesn't meet your standards that happens to have a Chapter 91 license. Because I think that an applicant who comes forward and passes the grandfathering test has some rights to maintain that dock. And if he can make it better, like we're proposing, so much the better.
Are you done?
I'm done.
Are you ready, Tommy?
Yeah, I don't have any, well, I do have one question. At the end of the, you said this, but at the end of the dock, right now, you have 3 feet of water at the terminal end, regardless of what boat is there, 3 feet of water.
Yeah, it's 3 and then 3.5.
Right, okay. And you want to replace the essentially in-kind, but elevating it some in the same footprint?
Eliminating the floats.
Eliminating the floats, they're now bottoming out.
Yes, make it all fixed.
Yeah. That's it. I personally have no problem with that. It seems like an improvement to me. That's it.
Well, what a beautiful place to take a walk on an early morning, hearing a hound dog barking in the background. It set a really good tone. I walked across this, I understand why they're doing it.
Lucy didn't come and visit you?
It was awesome. I have a couple questions on, as of late, I've had to dig some sonotubes, and I want to know how you're going to dig 6 feet down by hand. I really want to meet the guy that can do that. 6 feet down, you're gonna have a huge hole for a 6x6. Post holes only go to about 3'6", post hole diggers. Long handle shovel, you're gonna get 4'6", maybe 6 feet deep. If you're only going 4 feet, say 4 feet. You're not gonna, even with an auger, you're gonna have to use an extension. If you used a dingo to do this and brought it down there and used a 12-inch, you'd have to have 2 extensions to get down to 6 feet.
I guess we'll probably go to 4 feet.
Yeah, and that was one thing. Everybody's talking about the terminal end of this boat, terminal end of the dock. I'll tell you exactly where the boat, as this plan, as I read it, where the boat's gonna get tied off is at the end and not on the sides. Because you have handrails going down both sides of the dock.
I've seen the boat tied off this way, yeah.
I understand that,
But you're
but
saying
you've got
you could-
handrails on both sides of the dock.
I don't remember the handles, no.
They're on your profile, it has 2 by, what you're proposing,
Oh, I'm sorry, no.
and you're gonna have a less than, you're gonna have a 30-inch space to crawl through.
No, this last section won't have.
Aha! Thank you. I appreciate that. All right, there's another little thing that the 4x4s, if this project was gonna go through, there'd be no more outhaul pipes, no more 4x4s up and along there, no more blue ropes tied off to vegetation to hold whatever it was out in the water. I can appreciate, I appreciate the photos. I think they're enamoring. I think that wins a lot of testimony with me, just because you can tell the vintage of it, and it is in the background. I do accept that with more, if possible, verification. No 4x4s, there's gonna be seasonal water on that. And then, I also can explain why it goes from 2.4 to 3.5 at the end. That's because your engine's there, and that's what's dug that out. That's what's channeled that out over time. The habit of mooring the boat on that side, on a float, at a lower tide, and not even having to prop all the way down, just up, you're still, the turbidity that has, and you can see it. You stand at the end of that float, and you can see when you turn to get your bow out, that's the shape of the hole, that's the shape of the depression. And that's, that's an existing condition. And as I see it, with what I'm looking at, with the handrails and such, even though you had clarified that for myself, it's at the end. And if the applicant needs to review this and propose a T, it's, one of the functions of having the water depth is to keep the hull from grounding out too, like it is now. And if you don't have the hull at the perpendicular to the end, and you have it on the side, even though you're elevating it, it's still gonna bottom out. It's no better than the float.
It's gonna be in the water, so, as the water goes down.
Right, the float will no longer be an issue, and it is a very much a betterment on many avenues, but the activity itself is not gonna change. That boat is still gonna be in
Yeah, I don't disagree.
low water,
You can't change that.
right, with what's being proposed.
Right.
Outside of that, it's a really super, super beautiful place. Thank you.
Mike?
I understand where you're coming from. It is clearly an improvement over what's there for both the environment and the use. I'm all in favor of that. There are potentially better designs, but I'm reluctant to send you down the road that you don't want to go down, to go back and say, where you're at. So, that's good, I'm good, I'm finished.
Lori?
I had a question about the salt marsh and the handrail. It's not gonna go to the bottom of the ramp? On this pier profile, it shows the ramp to grade, and
Yes.
it doesn't have a handrail there, so people can just walk out and stand on the salt marsh?
No, you talking about this?
Yes.
This little ramp is as though you were walking down that existing walkway. And you get to the very end of the ramp, you're approaching the end of the ramp and the end of the dock before you go out over into the water. So the little ramp just to transition up from this little brick walk up to up to the deck. That is the beginning of the dock. So
But it is in the salt marsh.
it's actually not in the salt marsh, it's up on the,
It's in the upland.
Where, okay, I see it, ramp to grade.
yeah, and the actual edge of salt marsh, for reference on here, is over here, it's further out.
Where all those little.
Well, I'm looking at this one. There's a salt marsh, and it does say the ramp to the grade is before the edge of the salt marsh.
Right, it's up the slope past towards the,
That was my concern.
so it's not in the salt marsh.
Mike, do you have a mooring field in your?
I didn't specify one, I can show it on the plan. You mean where the boats tied, where the boats would actually be tied? Is that what you mean by mooring field?
Yeah, that's what we usually mean by a
Yeah,
mooring
well,
field.
it's not, see, it's not a proposed dock, so some of these things I just don't usually typically show, but I can show a mooring field.
It isn't a proposed dock?
Well, it's a replacement of an existing, it's not a first-time dock. I'm happy to show the mooring field, there's no
There's
problem.
no bottom. There's a collection of floats out there at the Type Island and Blue Brook. I don't know why we're not operating under the assumption that it should be in deeper water, it should have a shellfish survey, it should have a T. That's steps. I've seen this too many times. Mike, can you take the pictures back and make copies of them? With the little stickies, please, thank you.
Post.
Right.
About here.
What?
That- There's post.
Is that the one you were talking about?
Right, there's
That's the one we
pipes and
were
there's
talking about.
posts.
That's just, we're using it to keep it off the dock and the water.
Oh, I see. That's to keep that off the dock.
They
I
keep
mean,
it in the
our
bottle.
concern, like Mike's,
Yeah.
Tom's concern is, Mike, if you measure, you said it's an 18-foot center console. If you,
I, don't quote me on that, it looked like it when
I mean, you-
it's a
you know,
typical
it's-
smaller center.
measure 18 feet from the end of your dock on your pier profile.
It comes in close to shore.
Yeah.
It's near
I
low
mean,
tide.
mean low water. you
I'm
don't
not
have any water.
disagreeing, I'm sure the keel touches at low tide, probably from the midpoint up to the bow. I'm
It
not
does.
disputing that. I'm just reporting, this is what's out there.
No, we know.
I didn't want to start to make the dock bigger than the footprint until I got input from you folks, because suddenly, is that going to trigger different things, that suddenly I've got myself in a catch-22? When I feel like I have a right to license this dock and make it better, if I've demonstrated its grandfather. If my client says, I'm happy with the T, but you say, well, whoa, you did the T, but now we need you to do a shellfish survey, that may cause some concern for my client, because suddenly now we have to spend $3,000 or $4,000 and we may get bad information, which is good to know, but is it gonna make you say, oh, now we can't have a dock because we have shellfish?
But if you report to your client that it's likely that we won't permit this,
I don't know
Maybe.
that, I mean, that's
Right.
what I'm trying to
I mean,
get.
the board has to weigh the grandfathering, so if you could provide the color photos and do some more research on that, Mike, that would be helpful.
I mean,
Poke around
Is
with
it-
that.
the sense of the board, you want a T, and if I came back with a T, it might be something more acceptable.
well, I can tell you, it's the sense of the board that we don't like where it's moored right now.
I will mirror Betsy's, I'm a pretty dock-friendly guy, I really am. And I don't have.
Did
with
you
a
hear
look-
that? Did you hear that, Tom? Did you hear what he just said?
Yeah, I
Don't answer the question.
but I need a little bit more just for the history. a little bit more of that, and I'm there for the grandfathering. If you came in and you had handrails up the sides and they tied off at the end, huzzah. That's a win-win for everybody. So no shellfish survey and such, you're tying off at the end. That's where you're gonna disembark anyways. You're not gonna be, you might put the cooler through the rail, but Nana's not
Tie
gonna,
off the end, are you suggesting that we like 5?
right, yeah.
4 feet, only 4
No,
feet?
you can't do that.
You can't do that.
As proposed, to satisfy myself with what environmental impacts would happen, that's what I'm suggesting. They can take his input. I'm not gonna redesign this project. With what is proposed in front of me, I'm giving him my solid opinion of what I'm going.
When Mike comes back with mooring field on the plan, which we like on any plan, that, the boat should be out there. Now, however, whatever is necessary to secure the boat out there, that's a different question. You're not gonna design it.
No, I'm not.
I understand.
And when you come back, Mike, can you take your hand railing off the pier
Oh, yeah, I made a note of
Yeah,
that.
thanks.
Actually, depending on what I come back with, the railing may be.
Maybe there.
It may
Maybe
be
not,
there,
maybe
right.
We just want to stop the impacts of the current use, and if we can do that, and I mean, not having a license is triggering, I mean, if you can make the grandfathering meet that criteria, all 3 of those criteria that you know. The existence or had an OC before 78, been continuous use in 78, and it's been essentially unchanged, which it looks like it has in those photos, but just a little bit more.
I'll do my best to find an
But
aerial or.
it's killing us with that crop dredging on the end and everything else, that just,
I understand.
Bless you.
Is there any eelgrass?
No, there's no eelgrass.
we had this conversation.
I had that conversation with the owner too. When he first was there decades ago, that entire area had eelgrass except where the boat went up and down the center. And now there's no eelgrass. In fact, there's very little there's a couple of little patches in Eel Pond, but way out by the entrance. Unfortunately.
How long do you think you need to get more info?
When
2 weeks?
I would need at least 2.
Because now you're, like, if we get you on the 18th, if not, it's going to be kicking it into January.
What date in January would it
With the,
6th, 8th?
what's the second we continue, I think
be?
it's
The
the
8th? I think I should ask for a 2-week continuance.
8th.
Just so people know, I'm not gonna be here.
Okay,
That's
but
my thing.
5 of us will be here. Yeah, and if you need more time,
If
you
you
can
need more
ask for a
time after that,
continuance.
but let's see if we can get this wrapped up by the end of the year.
I motion that we continue at the applicant's request until the 18th.
Right,
Second.
okay, any other questions on the board?
I just had a point of
Or comments?
clarification. A mooring field is a group of registered moorings. So where you put the boat on the
No, what
dock
we call it, where you put the boat is on the dock.
is a
We
mooring
refer
field?
to that, yeah.
It was written in their regs when I got there, so.
Basically a rectangle where we.
We might,
I
Where are you gonna
understand.
park?
we would agree,
Can we call it a
We would
parking
agree
spot?
with you, Tom.
Yes.
Okay.
a boating parking spot.
Yeah.
Okay, are there any,
We know.
those are, yeah, one of the things, are there any questions from the audience? Okay, there's a motion and a second on the table to continue this to December 18th. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous, so moved.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
All right. Roberta Hutchinson, 77 Gifford Street, Falmouth, for permission to remove fill and debris within a bordering vegetated wetland, remove invasive species, and restore a portion of the disturbed area with native plantings with all associated clearing and grading. Jen?
Yes, Madam Chairman, I'll save any of my comments until after my presentation.
Mike? You're busy tonight.
Falmouth Engineering, and I represent the applicant, Roberta Hutchinson. Roberta owns the property at 77 Gifford Street. She recently acquired the property, I think probably about a year ago, and she has been taking steps since she acquired the property to renovate and improve a very substandard house, and it was run down, pretty much abandoned. She purchased it at foreclosure and is now doing a really nice job on the house renovation. In fact, we've been here twice for RDAs, one to upgrade the septic system that was out within 100 feet of the wetland, and then once to propose this addition, which would be a garage, and again was issued a negative determination because it wasn't in the AOB zones requiring any mitigation plan. During all of this review, I had a few conversations with Mark Casperzick when we were on site, and we observed way down in the back, in the woods, there's been historical dumping of junk, debris, stuff that was just discarded down there, and it's built up over the years. And Mark pointed it out, and we agreed, and just coincidentally, the applicant had asked me about it, and if it was possible for her to do something about it and clean it up, so both sides want to clean it up. So, I filed a notice of intent asking for permission to do that, with some direction from Mark. The debris, as best we could pinpoint it, is in this orange area, and it's just at the edge of the wetland, but not in the wetland. Some of it's like landscape lawn clippings, some of it is just like metal junk.
Plastic, a lot of plastic.
So, we think we pinpointed it pretty well by survey and showing it in orange. So what we're hoping to do is a couple of things. Get rid of all that debris. Also remove some invasives that are highlighted in green cross-hatching on the plans you have and up here. There's an old wire fence that runs through the woods and has vines and things growing through it. It's a hazard to humans and animals. It serves no purpose at all. Take all that debris out. Replant the area with native plantings, and they're specified, and if there's other suggestions, we're happy to listen to staff on that, but it's stuff that Mark and I talked about. Viburnums and things like that. And also to plant some tupelo trees. We're also, there's no backyard, there's no grass, there's no outdoor area, and this is right on Gifford Street. There's no yard to speak of at all. So we were hopeful that we could have Falmouth-friendly lawn up near the house. And that area was highlighted in blue, that we were hoping to have Falmouth-friendly lawn. So there's a methodology here about how we were going to propose to do the work. And it's outlined in the narrative of the notice of intent as well. There were some discussions through the process, and it was suggested to me by Mark that this may be a vernal pool. I looked at the definitions, this is a few months ago now, and I didn't feel, and I'm not an expert, I just read the definition, and it didn't seem like it met the definition of vernal pool, but the definition is much more detailed than...
It's a biological
Right,
definition.
it's more than just the physical. So Jen and I talked about this some more, and I'm not going to disagree. I'm not qualified to, and I don't want to hire an expert to try to disagree. It's not, to me, this is a friendly, cooperative effort to improve things, and if it's a vernal pool, so be it. And if that means there has to be an added level of protection, it was suggested by Jen that we should increase the buffer width of planting since it's a vernal pool by adding another 20 feet into the yard, which brings it way up into here. Instead of having a lawn, have more native plantings.
It still gives you 30 feet of lawn.
I'm not.
I was the one who suggested that to
Yeah.
Jen.
So if that's a better solution, I talked to my client about it, and he understands, and he's receptive to the idea. He asked me, if possible, did that also mean that it's starting to get expensive to do this renovation? So adding 20 feet of plants at the density that you typically require starts to get very expensive. We didn't know if we really needed to plant a lot down where we removed the debris, if it would just grow back naturally with what's down there, or if we should, I'm trying to find a way to minimize the amount of shrub material you have to buy by either, if we add this added 20, Jen had talked about the spacing being 3 feet on center. I was hoping we could continue to maintain it at 5 feet on center because it makes a big difference in the number of plants. And there's a lot of professionals in that business that actually think 3 feet on center is just too dense. So we were hopeful if we could work.
I think we could work with you on that,
That would be helpful. Does it make sense to plant down here? I don't know.
I think you might have to because you don't want the invasives to come in. I mean, you're removing the invasives, so,
where the invasives are, but where the debris is,
yeah, but it'll be all exposed.
well, there's a lot of leaf litter, there right now.
You're gonna have to plant some of them. If not, you're giving the invasives a perfect opportunity to go in there. That's what happens. Disturbed areas,
I know,
invasives.
I
Well,
know.
maybe I guess if we could have an increased spacing on the plants.
Yeah, we'll,
5 feet or something like that, that'd be helpful because you almost double the density.
Yeah, but the thing is, the other thing about that area is there are a lot of trees there.
Yeah.
So definitely, I think
Yeah,
you could
no, that's fine.
increase the spacing.
Right. Speaking of trees, I didn't mention that the mark was the one that specified the ones that should be removed. There's a couple of real straggly, like sapling trees that are kind of competing with the more mature trees, and they're in the debris, like they're growing out of debris. It's almost impossible to take the debris out unless you cut those saplings down. So we're asking for 3 of those to be removed, and that's why we were proposing 2 pools that are outside the canopy area, further towards the house to
Yeah,
offset.
I think you could, with a little imagination, you can make that a really nice backyard and a nice area for them to look out on.
Right. So that's pretty much the project. I'm happy to answer any questions.
no, like I said, Madam Chairman, Mike and I talked about this afternoon. The plan will need to be changed, Mike, to show that, okay, and make it green hacking, like you have it on there now, although everything on that plan is green. Show the vernal pool boundary, but you and I discussed that, and I'll give you a few more plants to choose from. That'll do well in shade, and also give them some color in their, along their edge back garden.
Yeah, I'd just like you to,
And Mark,
Mike, to have a continuance with the new plan, and also reflect, maybe you could have a meeting with Jen and just reflect what the planning is gonna be, so it's clear.
Okay.
and Mark sent us an email today. He's heard like wood frogs in there, so it's definitely could be considered a vernal pool. He's very adamant about that.
I've heard about this property for almost as long as you have. Lori,
Excuse me?
no, you have any questions?
No, thank you.
Mike?
They've been filling along the back. I think it's flat enough that I don't think I'm worried about runoff. But please take a look at it, so we're not
You mean with the
pumping.
grading that's
Yeah, if the
done right
grading
now?
is there now, it's winter, it rains, it's not there, and hate to see it go running down to where you're doing the mole. But just take a look at
We
it.
actually showed on the other plan, not on this one, because it wasn't the focus on this addition, putting in a dry well for the new roof
Yeah.
runoff, so.
Yeah.
we-
I think he's talking, though, I
Just
mean, when
talking
I was
Right,
there,
well, no,
they're
it's been
doing
a
the
lot of
grading
grading.
right now.
Soil.
Yeah.
Maybe you could just put a road
Just
straw
take a
bales
look at it
or
and
something.
just be sure that,
Okay.
and whether, other than that, it's clearly a nice
Okay.
improvement.
Understood.
It's a nice improvement. It really is. It's doing the neighborhood a real favor.
Yeah, it could, I mean, this could be a really nice area.
Little area, really good.
I shared Mike's concern just about the site condition, that's it.
Tommy?
No questions, just a comment that, I think in this situation where it was a rundown property and they're picking, I'm in favor in the greater spaces or some leniency to make it a little cheaper for them to basically
yeah.
remove the trash.
Yeah.
And there is tree cover and everywhere else is wild, so,
Yeah.
that's it.
Court, you too?
Oh, I'm going to second Tom's comments. I
Okay.
mean, I think they're making, this is a nice project, and it just needs a little refinement.
And the only other thing I'm going to suggest, Mike, is some kind of, something, either a split rail fence or something that delineates where the edges be. Between the lawn and where you're planting. You'd hate to, if they're 5 feet apart and have them locked off with a lawnmower. Would you like the 18th?
Please.
Mike, I have a question. There's no deck on the back of this house?
No?
No patio or anything like that?
We're going to have a nice, friendly lawn out to where the bushes are going to be.
Do a deck or patio, it was not with permission.
I just,
18th is okay with you, Jen?
if again, Mike?
Yes, he does.
Yeah,
We've already done that.
On behalf of the applicant, I make a motion to continue to December 18th.
Second.
Any further questions on the board? Any questions from the audience? You have a question? Oh,
He's a neighbor.
That's right. Street.
yeah. Yeah. It could be, it, when it's done, it'll be really, really nice back area.
Oh, absolutely. Like,
Okay.
the table for continuance to the 18th, December 18th. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved.
Thank you.
Thomas Brady, 25 Luciano Botello Way, Falmouth. Permission to install a 35-foot by 4 seasonal walkway dock, 6 foot by 15 L. This is it. Yours is a beautiful spot also. Jen, do you have any questions? Say you all. He has another question tonight also.
Madam Chairman, it was, I represent the Brady's who are here tonight. Been introduced. And the Brady's own property on Flaxville family. And the stairs that make the way the platform. It's the only access to the pond. The greatest, if you want to go work on some stairs.
Yeah.
The elevation at the top, 6, and the elevation at the bottom, 14.
Good thing now.
Balance of the waterfront on Flash Pond, the Great Pond, Perfect Pond, inland bank, by Dutton. It's completely wooded, and the find a way to make better recreation. So what we're proposing is removable lightweight aluminum that would give them more access to motorboats. Issues with propeller, no water shelters with fresh pond, and very recreational activities, kayaking, swim, fish. Mrs. Brady told me once that when she goes down with the kids, wade for like 30 minutes while the kids play. Deep.
It is.
Extremely deep. It's really use it as some sort of usable platform, and so what we're proposing is a lightweight seasonal platform, and it's been designed in a way that the small don't have to haul it back up, because you store them, and you probably lash them to right at the bottom and just securely as you. And the type of it'd be sleeves in the bottom. Some of the you auger in sleeves in the bottom, stay in all year round, so you can always go back to the very same spot. Little pipe, and there's it's almost like staging, and it's level it, and put it back in place. We put it back in the very same place every series. There's no pile driving, there's no barges, it's all done by hand. This was subject to MISA, so we filed with MISA, and we were saying that this is all going to take is a favorable thing. I assume you got that letter, Jen? The MISA letter?
Yes, I just read it.
So, that's pretty much the application happening.
Jen?
Do you know?
Do I know why? Yeah, I think there's tidal and market, yeah, in the
One
area,
of the few areas in town.
right. There's also, I think, on the north Falmouth also has a crooked pond.
Mm-hmm. Oh, Crooked Pond,
A lot of things.
they have a lot more. Beautiful habitat up there. Not the tidewater market, the natural heritage is concerned. I like this lead by the freshwater mussel, just, it'll make it easier and less damaging to the bottom. I do like that idea. And I have no other comments.
Court?
Other than I bet the board is no inland dockland.
Yes, we do. No, 1057, 58 for an old pool. Anything?
Yeah, I like the concept. As as a practical question, though, how easy is it going to be to find these sleeves in the spring in however many feet of water it is?
What we were hoping to do was keep them, you know, maybe 18 inches above the bottom and then tide float them, or something that will allow you to find them easy. And if it's below
Little underwater flow.
water surface, in case it freezes.
Yeah, you're trying to have leaves below the freeze point.
Yes. And go deep. If you have them like 12 inches above the bottom of the pond, the ground bottom, have some sort of little float off that doesn't float to the surface, because then the ice can raise it with those. I've seen this done. I only know that they have experience on a lake in the that's how they do it. So you can go back and find those.
Yeah, I guess that's as, I mean, I think that's a great concept. It's just that's the only thing that
Or somebody
I wouldn't bother trying to find.
mask on and get that
That's-
cold milk for it.
Excuse me.
No other questions?
Okay, Tommy,
Questions, I like it.
Tom?
I wrote down here, it was a great morning to walk. I got to up here, stairs and the blue hit me.
Yeah,
It's put on here, no cutting, small lot, not fertilized a lot. I'm like, I'm giving you all these little attaboys, you know, and it's just, thank you. It was one of the first slopes that I've walked down in quite a time where I didn't have historical cutting and somebody, and just, you know, thank you. And as far as concerned, I've installed a few of these in different areas. Put a little cap on it. Around. I had the stanchion together, those ospreys, just so that you go down there with, you stick your hand in there, pull something, and you slide it in. And the beauty of these, if I'm thinking about it, even if you don't drive it down on as you did 1 year or not as, you know, if that is what you're clamping, a stage and go is a variable. I think that's a really nice spot.
Flush over here and, I guess there. They feed them? They were awfully friendly. I went, oh, cool. And then, they were around.
wonderful place.
Like,
No comment.
I couldn't get to the bottom of the stairs.
but you appreciate a long way down.
And I looked down there and said, there's no way I'm falling one of those stairs. My only concern is where you were gonna store it, and I think you got the little address.
Make a motion to close and take it under advisement.
Second.
Any other questions from the board? Any questions from the audience? Beautiful spot, you'll enjoy it.
Oh, one question. Why are the boulders there?
Oh, because it's a housing community to the right of us.
Okay,
And we're the first house outside of it, so they block themselves off.
Oh, they block
thank you.
themselves
I
off
just-
from you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the first question I had when we saw the house. Why are the boulders in the road?
Okay, thank
Well,
you.
it's also a little tricky because the house next to yours is on Lenora Avenue.
Yes.
And I thought,
Lenore Avenue is just one,
well, I can see on the map
yeah,
here why it's that way, but I'm like,
it's a driveway.
It's a paper street.
yeah,
Don't even go there.
but it's beautiful, it's a beautiful spot. Right. Okay, motion and second on the table to close this hearing and take it under advisement. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstention? Unanimous, so moved. Thank you.
Mike.
No, Mike's not leaving us yet. Now Tom is up. Cheryl Devine and Philip Podmore, 46 Rivers End Road, Falmouth, for permission to enclose an existing deck, construct a 3-foot by 4-foot landing, install a dry well, and mitigation planning. Jen? Good evening again, Tom.
Thank you. Good evening again. I'm Tom Bunker with BSS Design. Prepared this plan for Cheryl Devine and Philip Podmore. This house was built some time ago in order conditions. And more recently, there were more conditions for the stairway down to Great Pond in that location. Resource area, we have a Great Pond, which is tidal. There's a flood zone up to here. There's a coastal bank, it's a steep coastal bank. So it's quite an obvious coastal bank when you get out there. You can see it's actually the top of the coastal bank, pretty far up the hill to where it crests. That coastal bank touches another wetland resource area, a 50-foot A zone along it, and then the B zone is up here. This is the deck that was on the house currently, permanent deck. It's just on sonotubes. So actually, the description just says to close it, but actually with the architect, they want to put in frost walls and basically rebuild it as a frost walls. So there will be some excavation in here. You have to get some fairly small equipment, probably just with a bobcat. One thing I have here for limited work, I'll have to kind of push it out, not to protect the trees, but not harm the trees. But there's some bayberries that were planted previously under the previous order conditions through here. Some of them will be damaged, either just pushed back or driven over. But we do have it so that any damaged bayberry, damaged or destroyed bayberries throughout here will be replaced. Put it back to the condition that it is now, even though I think the bayberry is somewhat encroaching because actually it's all within 10 feet of the house there, so I'm not sure that they have to maintain the native vegetation, but they will replant anything that is damaged. One special request here, there's an oak tree, it's right by the corner of that deck that they would like to take down. The footprint will be enlarged slightly, not of the enclosed room itself, that will be on the deck, but because this is now enclosed as habitable space, building code says there has to be outside the door a landing. So basically it's a 3x4 landing, 12 square feet, which has to be added outside the door. So that we're in the A zone, triple mitigation. So we have in this area here, there's a cleared lawn area, sort of 36 square feet, approximately 9 shrubs going in over here to mitigate for that 12 square feet of extra landing that would have to be there, or extra coverage from the landing. And because this will now be roofed, we'll put in a dry well to contain the stormwater runoff in this location here, pretty near where the tree was removed. That's the presentation, that's the project. I'll take questions.
Lori?
So you're not gonna replace the tree?
Oh, he is gonna replace the tree.
Sounds like I'm gonna replace the tree.
That's my only question.
We'll put a tree over here in this, we can put a tree in that area right there where the,
I have another suggestion for you too. When it's my turn.
I'm all set.
Mike?
This is a one-story structure, no bedroom above.
yes.
Fine. No other questions?
Your limit of work is as proposed, correct? In the deck area, you don't feel that you need to go out a little bit?
I was gonna say, is that enough room to dig a frost wall?
Yeah, that was one of my only things. I read your narrative. I can see where the construction equipment, something like a mini excavator is gonna be necessary. The fill is gonna have to just, no fill on site, because there's no place to put it, period,
It's
you
gonna
know?
be tough, always be taken out.
Yeah, and getting concrete back there, they're gonna have to pump it. And pumps make a mess,
I
so,
think they'd have to come in the driveway, and I'm not sure about the booms, if they just go over the house.
yeah, pumps make a mess, especially when they're washing out, so,
House, isn't it?
yeah, it doesn't matter, he can go right over, it's not a big
Well,
deal.
the truck would be on the
Yeah,
driveway
but
side.
when he washes out, just, they make a mess. And it was recently dig saved, and there was a lot of activity in the front lawn. Is that,
Doors are repaired to the septic system.
okay, and that's,
Of the front yard.
okay. Right, I just was wondering why it was dig saved out there. Yeah, they have a lot of freshly done things, so when the pump truck's there, they make a mess. I don't know if I told you that yet, but, okay.
I'll
Do
write
you wanna
that
say
down.
it one more time?
No, you might have got the hint.
Okay.
You really think you got enough space to go around that?
No, I have a suggestion
Okay,
on that.
because I know why the tree's coming out. When that tree comes out, you're gonna have root system that goes out past that limit of work. I almost guarantee it. That, and that's why I think maybe massaging that a little bit, and then if you need to, once that's established and backfilled, you can pull it back in.
Assuming if they can do that, I mean, they'll replant back up to where it is
Well,
now.
I'll give you my suggestion right now, since it has to do with this. I think your limit of work has to go further out. I think those plants are close, because it was before we had our 10-foot, you needed a 10-foot space, and I would suggest that those plants be replaced in kind, but kind of spread out through the lawn. I mean, there's
This other area here.
this other
Yeah.
area, I mean, there are trees, but there's space for shrubs. You see what I'm saying, Jen?
Mm-hmm.
So instead of planting them right by the house,
It's ridiculous.
leave 10 feet, and, if they want to put ornamentals there or whatever, but however many of those native shrubs, plant them in that other area on top of the bank.
Top of the bank or another area, or?
Or, well, it could be
This
scattered,
area got pretty well planted up when they were doing it. There is an area that's pretty.
but there's an
kinda
area that's
sparse.
pretty sparse. There are several areas that are pretty sparse.
Yeah.
You can pop them right out and just plant them in there now.
Yeah, in fact, before you do the work, just transplant them.
Mhm.
Yeah, and then you don't have to buy new ones. Tommy,
No questions.
come back.
No question.
No more?
I'm good. Thank you.
Can you come back on the 18th with a new plan? He could come back on the 18th with a new plan.
The new plan on the 11th, for hearing on the 18th.
Yes, can you come back on the 11th or before with a new plan
So we have a plan
That
before
we
the
can-
11th.
that we
and
can-
your review on the 18th.
that we can discuss with you on the 18th?
Yes.
On behalf of the applicant, I ask for a continuance to December 18th.
Second.
Okay, any further questions? Any questions from the audience? We would not want to see all of you before Christmas to wish you a Merry Christmas.
Courtney has to give you all the remember?
Oh, yes, Courtney.
Yes, Cole.
Courtney will give you a coal, I'll give you a candy cane.
It'll all depend on the
Okay, did
band.
I ask you if you had any comments? You don't have any comments? Okay, motion and a second on the table for continuance to the 18th. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous, so moved. Thanks, Tom. Uh-oh. Thank you. Okay, continued request for hearings under a notice of intent, Town of Falmouth Beach Committee, care of Don Hoffer, Minot Beach, Minot Road, for permission to remove all hidden rocks, asphalt, pilings, wooden structures, and the associated clearing, excavating, grading, and landscaping. This will be continued to the 18th. We have a motion?
Also move.
You only have one scheduled.
Could I have a second?
Second.
Does anybody have any comments?
Yeah, I'm not going to be here, damn it.
Oh, before I take this vote. Well, it may be,
Oh, the filing one might be.
it may not be on the 18th, so don't worry.
Don't worry about it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for continuance to the 18th. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous, so moved. Enforcement, Eel Pond Realty LLC, 87 Water Street for digging, clearing, and altering wetland resource area and in buffered resource areas as defined in FWR 10.00 and 310 CMR 10.00. Jen?
Yes, Madam Chairman, this was brought to the board's attention that a patio was built behind 87 Water Street about a year ago, I think, year and a half ago, correct me if I'm wrong, Jeff. And it is currently a drainage issue or just a drainage issue onto the neighboring property. The board wanted to have a few weeks to go and review the site.
Yep.
It's something I think the board would have absolutely permitted with proper drainage. So I know that Tom went down on Wednesday before Thanksgiving in the cold rain.
And Mike went in the rain
had gone
too, I
down
think.
earlier,
Yeah.
and those are the photos that are going around right now are from Mike. I don't know how anybody else was able to get down there during a heavy rain to see what was going on, so the board wanted that opportunity. You've seen it, there's the brick patio, the railing, like I said, it's all things I think this board would have permitted. But there is a drainage problem now, whether it is caused by the patio or as Mike and I think Tom saw, the roof. We'll need to address that.
Mike?
Madam Chairman.
Good
members of
evening
the
again.
commission, Good evening again. I represent Jeff Parrish, just here. And I've gone down after the last meeting and looked at some things too during rain events. And my impression, what I watched in heavy rain, was the roof leader downspout between this property and the Shuckers restaurant property seemed to me to be the major culprit of concentrated runoff that was discharging and then making its way down the side of the building and then cascading like over the top of the wall and some of it meandering over to like that sloping brick area. I watched the rain. I stood with my back to the building and looked at the pond right where the patio is and watched the rain, and I didn't really see any like sheet flow off that small patio that was running anywhere. In my opinion, it's the concentrated roof runoff, and I think the solution would be to install a dry well to collect the roof runoff, and I think 90% or more of the runoff from that site would be contained. And Jeff and I talked about that. He's more than willing to do that. It would be work done by hand. For obvious reasons, you have to take up some of the brick. It's sandy material. You hand dig down, and maybe they actually make plastic lightweight dry wells. We could probably install one. There's no need to get a machine there. You couldn't get one there if you wanted to. That's my opinion, based on what I observed, to cure the runoff problem.
Any questions?
Well, when I went down there, I didn't get at the peak of when it was really crappy because I was doing some of my own crappy stuff in the rain. So then, when I went down there, I waited.
At your own site.
Yeah. So I hung out there for quite some time because I wanted to give the benefit of the doubt to all involved because I wanted to see the event. There's a lot of water coming in from a lot of different areas. It's not singularly from this property nor the other. The street does contribute quite a bit. I do think that a dry well is necessary. And closer to the downspout, and the downspout being piped in directly, because it will sheet up to a point, and there's a brick missing at the corner of the, where there's almost like a little ramp just before the next property, and it does hit that and go off the wall. I didn't see it going across, other than a rivulet that literally is inches wide at the base of that. And most of what I saw was coming from this property, was from the downspout where there's a back stairway. And I think if that was piped directly in, if that was captured up there, that would eliminate a lot of sheeting that would come. However, in the season where the awning is, I could see the awning, which I think is great, because I would like to be underneath it if it was raining. That would contribute to that line, that portion between both properties, as being able to sheet some of the rain as well. So it's not singularly one, it's a combination of a lot of things. The existing conditions now, I think they definitely need to do a directed dry well to capture as much as they possibly can. And I think that would alleviate as much as you possibly could on this site, because I don't think a French drain is going to capture anything up on that end. It's all coming from the roof runoff. It's not the flow as I witnessed it coming across from even the other back corner. There is a tremendous amount of water that comes in there, but it isn't solely from this property.
Gord?
Yeah, if this were piped directly into a dry well, and you're still trying to capture the other runoff, it sounds to me like you've got to come back to us with a design that would address both the idea of piping directly in there, also capturing the runoff from the awning in the summertime.
But that's a variable. I'm only saying that the awning's there, and it doesn't hit his, it doesn't hit theirs. It hits kind of like a no man's land that's right in between the two properties. And I did not witness any of that cheating. That's my conjecture, because the awning isn't there. But if I was an awning, which I would appreciate to have, that water that comes across
is run right off the end of it and straight down. So if you could do anything, you could design a depression along the edge of it.
There's planters on one side of it, there's leaf clutter on the other side. I don't see.
The other issue is, let's say if this dry well has a grate on the top of it, so water flows into it. You know, you're gonna also have all the sediment and the leaves and the other stuff, and so it's gonna be a continual maintenance issue.
I don't think there are too many leaves that'll go there.
And I'd want to see a dry well, given the location and the, you know, I don't know how far down you are to basically groundwater or whatever, but I'd want to see a design of this thing and make sure that it's adequate to handle what people are seeing. I mean, I don't think you just go in and dig something in there and say, this is great, because, you know, 3 years from now, it will be all clogged up and failed.
3 years from now, and I'm going to take umbrage with this, because you do the best you can with what's down there. Woods Hole is unique in many circumstances. There's got to be some latitude. You cannot have a perfect solution, because there isn't a perfect answer. There are goodwill gestures, and there are good faith intention to make something better than what it is. We know there's a problem, take steps to do something better than what's there. But to think that you're going to have something in a space like that, it's a betterment.
No,
I just don't see,
I'm not,
I don't want to reinvent the wheel with drainage off a roof. You know, I'm telling you what I witnessed, what I saw, and that's it. You know, I'm not,
Okay, let's move
my-
on.
my-
Tommy,
my-
any
Not at the
comments?
moment, not at the
yeah,
moment.
my point is, yeah, you're right, you're not gonna design a perfect system. But there has to be a recognition of maintenance, because, you know, it's gonna fill up, whatever you do down there is gonna fill up with sediment.
and I don't want to go down the road of maintenance right now, because that finger can point in every direction down there, okay? That's not,
We're gonna move
yeah,
on to
I'd rather
this.
just, yeah.
This, something will have to come back that'll have to be approved, and what the maintenance,
Yeah, remember,
Schedule
this is
will
an
be part of
enforcement
yeah.
hearing, so you have to decide a course of action after this. Nobody's gonna
Mike.
go down there and just dig something up.
we're
Right,
we're not
right.
designing it, Mike's gonna design it. Right, Mike?
I guess.
No, I don't agree.
There's three of us who stood in the rain, watching what was going on. We all saw the same thing, so I can remember it.
You witnessed the same thing?
Yeah, what I saw was
Mike,
pretty
your
much it was-
pictures.
Lori, any questions?
So the board has to decide, you know, one, you need a new plan down there. You have a patio that's there, you have a wall that was repaired, you have a railing along the patio, so the staff would recommend you have an updated site plan.
Yeah, you have to
That's a
come in-
given.
Right, you have to come in with an updated site plan and a plan with how you're gonna deal with the
How you're
runoff.
gonna deal with the drainage, whether it's coming off the roof, off the patio, something. Now, it depends on how the board wants to see this. If we're just talking a dry well or something, do you wanna see it under an RDA? Or would you like a notice?
Would if it comes in as an IDA, would all the existing site conditions be verified? Okay, did anybody have an issue with the handrail?
Nope.
Did anybody have any other issues other than the drainage, as far as the activities that have been there?
The activities that were done were the patio,
Right.
which resulted in a noticeable drainage problem out there. I'm not saying the patio contributed to it. The wall was repaired,
Yep.
which should have come before this board, and the handrail.
So how
I'd like
much
to
of this
see it under
problem was
notice.
created by the work that wasn't authorized?
Madam Chairman, can I make a suggestion? I think you have the authority under an enforcement order to just authorize us to do the work under the enforcement order without
We could
actually
do that.
filing any documents. like-
Well, I would like,
No.
I would like to see an order recorded, like this should have been recorded when we initially had a notice. I'd like to see it recorded with the deed.
Is there an
that
open
requires
order
a
on this
certain
property?
maintenance plan.
Is there an open order?
No.
No?
There's no,
It was never filed.
Well, it was a-
It's
there
never
was-
recorded with the
There was a
deed.
much different.
I didn't know if there was an open order you could put as an amendment.
I
If there
think
isn't,
you
there
could
isn't. You know,
just issue an enforcement action in telling us what to do.
Well, actually, an enforcement action Can be recorded with the
Can be
deed.
recorded.
Can be
Yeah.
recorded.
That's right.
We'll have a recordable enforcement action. Okay, we'll do it that way.
Do we need a motion to that effect?
Are we
Well-
going to see a sketch of what this drywall?
Oh, absolutely. It's gonna have
Yeah,
to,
you're gonna-
it's gonna have to be a substantial
Basically,
piece.
you'll vote an enforcement order
You guys are
next
ahead of me.
week.
That's okay.
Yeah, Jen will write up what the aspects are and read it to us next week, and then if you want to make any changes, you can, and
Yeah.
we'll vote it next week,
Yep.
all right? You're here next week.
Yes, I am. Yep.
Are we gonna be seeing a plan before we vote this?
No, you're gonna vote to acquire a plan within a certain period of time, and when the plan comes in, all 12 copies of it, you will get one.
Okay.
And prior to them implementing that plan, you will need to approve it.
Yep,
The board's gonna approve it, not the
yes,
town.
yep.
And my suggestion would be that it's a substantially designed, I'm sure it will, so that you can address other people's concerns about maintenance issues, so that you can show longevity with it and storm capture and all that. So that's it? We'll vote it next week?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, any comments?
Good evening, Madam Chairman, members of the board. Attorney Chris Grant, I represent the abutters, Woods Hole Marine at 91 Water Street. When I first heard Madam Chairman speak about having an order, I was happy to hear that. I would really like the opportunity for my clients to be able to see anything that comes before this board before it's presented under just an enforcement action. I don't believe that adequately represents my client's interests because he really believes it's more than just the water runoff from and just putting a drainage in there. The grade was actually raised and pitched towards my client's property, and this has not been addressed. It was not addressed at the hearing tonight, and it doesn't seem like, given the direction, that wouldn't be addressed in any type of enforcement action. I think that really needs to be addressed, and that's why we would like to see some more formal review process other than just telling them what they need to do and then coming back with a plan next week. So that's certainly one of the issues that my client has, that it's more than just putting a gutter and a drain in, because it was raised and it's pitched towards my client's property. And I think we're missing the fact that it was done without permits. And so, I mean, I think, as again, necessitating a little bit more review, allowing my client the opportunity to comment on what's being proposed, because if it had come under a notice of intent, my client would have been able to attend every meeting, give his comments, and then take whatever steps necessary depending on the adequacy of whatever was proposed by the board. And the final thing is there was work to the seawall. I'm not 100% confident, but I think Conservation Agent McKay could tell. I don't know if that needs to be reviewed by Chapter 91 because there was work under that seawall, and I don't want that to be overlooked.
Yeah, I actually would prefer this to come in as a notice,
Okay.
because it does give, since this was something that was brought up by a neighbor, it gives the neighbors the opportunity to comment.
The way this board usually handles things is if the work would not have been approved under a notice, you usually require the restoration under an enforcement order, the removal of structures, things like that. If a project could have been approved, which this one could have been properly done, you usually see it as a notice.
Yeah, I mean, I would prefer to see it as a notice, because then it gives more of an opportunity to make comments.
Okay.
My client's not opposed to what's going on. It's really, I mean, they just want it addressed adequately and their opportunity to look
Matt,
at it.
Understood.
Courtney's.
And I think, had this come to us as a notice originally to what you're saying, issues of how it was pitched, how it was built, methodology, drainage, all of those things would have been addressed under an order of conditions.
Correct.
And your clients would have had an opportunity for input. So, I'm with you.
Yeah, and actually, Mike, you can go back, because Jeff, you must have the plans that were originally submitted that
We have the spot grades on.
Yeah, that we have the spot grades on, so that we could see how things have changed, huh?
Nothing has changed.
Well, good. I mean,
Then
good for
that'll
you
be
if they have it,
shown when Mike does
but
his plan,
then
that'll
we'll
be
all
shown.
know. Okay,
Um,
Mike?
This board
No,
will
just
vote
one
an
second.
enforcement
Yeah.
order next week, and most likely now will require the filing of a notice of intent, most likely within 30 days. That's how their process works, so that will be done next week, or, you know, most likely next week, and it'll be issued, and they will have 30 days to file that notice with the board.
Great. Thank you for your time.
Do you have a comment? And Mike, you have a comment, right?
My comment is, I'm seeing this as an enforcement order, and I took it to heart, everybody's concerns, and that's why I stood out in the rain. And that's why I witnessed what I did. And what I saw is what I testified. However, I do know that it needs to be addressed. As far as the other activities on that, that's why, again, I brought up that subject sitting here, so that, you know, I understand. I didn't get to see this under a notice of intent either.
No, I
You know, and there's a little bit of a rub in that, okay? You're not the only ones that sometimes would like to see a notice. I didn't get to see it under a notice. It's an enforcement action, and I've extended myself. And I will continue to do so, because I would like to see this, I'd like to see this really satisfied and behind everybody. Done.
No, absolutely, and I certainly appreciate the efforts that all the commissioners put in. I myself sit on the town of Sandwich Conservation Commission, so I'm well aware of, you know, what everybody does and the efforts that's put in. It's volunteer time. You know, as I say, you know, being on this side of the table tonight, you know, I'm just looking to adequately protect my client.
Absolutely.
You know, this would have normally come under a notice of intent, we would have had that opportunity.
Yes.
And as I say, as far as the, you know, the grade issue, according to my clients, you know, that's what I'm going on, that grade has changed.
Okay, we're gonna find out.
Well, we have the before. Mike will give us the before and the after. And we'll-
Thank you very much for your time.
Okay.
You must have had fun reviewing the breach of Sandwich Town Beach.
Yes, very much so.
That was pretty impressive.
It was impressive.
I went down there.
Mike?
Our interest is to do this as expeditiously as possible. I think that the work that we're proposing to do is very minor, and you have authority in reporting an enforcement order. There's no further need to advertise, abutter notifications, appeal periods. The time frame is completely compressed. I thought I heard the concept originally was going to be next week, Jen prepares a document that would be an enforcement order that directs us to do certain things, file a plan, have public comment, and you approve that plan. So I think it's more expeditious and equally binding as an order of conditions as if you do an enforcement order, and we can get this done much faster that way. I don't know that we have to go through the whole effort of notice and order of conditions. All the same information will be provided to you, the same review, there'll be a hearing. It would be a fast track, and it would be just a lot more efficient for everyone involved. I think that putting aside that it was done without permits, wrong. You probably could have got, I could come to you today and probably get a dry well for any other property under an RDA. So I feel like, in my opinion, the most efficient way would be to just continue as we are with the enforcement action.
We can continue as we are, and you can submit a notice of intent next week.
Mike, they'll vote next week. They're not gonna have this discussion tonight.
We'll do a vote on what next week?
Their enforcement order, and whether or not to require a notice of intent through the enforcement order, or require the work to be done through the enforcement
Yeah,
order with a public hearing.
I'm not arguing, I'm just showing, I'm just
Yeah, I
suggesting like a
understand.
more efficient way to do it.
I understand.
Courtney?
I think you know, because you've been in these hearings enough on after-the-fact work, that's a thing that bugs me no end.
I'm pretty-
And I've
pretty
been
well aware.
biting my lip We could vote an enforcement order, we could vote to have you take everything that wasn't permitted out. So I think it's appropriate to go through the process that your client should have gone through before he did the work. Period.
I'm not gonna argue, I'm just suggesting a more efficient way of doing it, that's all.
Thank you.
We're going to move on. There are no more comments?
Close this enforcement.
Pardon me?
Close the hearing.
We have to
Motion-
close it?
We opened an enforcement hearing.
And we have to vote to close it?
Vote to close what?
So we're going to vote to continue it till next week?
Well, you're voting. All right.
May I say something?
Up to the podium,
Yeah.
please.
I'd just like to clarify one thing. Number one, I never realized that we needed a permit to put a patio in, or I would have got a permit, okay? I got permits for everything I've ever done there, unlike other neighbors around me. I put a patio in, the grade has not changed. I did put a cap on the wall. It was very jagged, so that's why that was done. That would be the only place that anything raised up was at the very end of the wall. There's actually concrete there now that hasn't been removed. It was there in the beginning. That's at the exact same grade. You can tell it's the exact same concrete. As far as the runoff goes, there's no other runoff that's been created really since we took over the building. There was always shells there that were compacted down, and there was a lot more runoff that went into that harbor, including all the shells that you can see at the base of the seawall that have been collecting there for years, along with all the sediment from the next door neighbor and some of the things that he used to use to go over across what is now my property when he was running his marina. So that created a lot of problems and created a lot of sediment in that one corner of that area. As far as the runoff goes, I have a video of it. It's a pretty compelling video. I just couldn't, I had to put it on YouTube. You can actually view it on YouTube, Woods Hole Market rain. So that's pretty compelling as far as the runoff goes. When we first came before the board almost 3 years ago, one of the reasons for we talked about drainage then was because we were going to be adding roof line. We were going to be enclosing the upstairs deck. And at that point, we had talked about a trench drainage system that would have gone across the whole lateral, the very end of the property. Since we didn't add the upstairs, I didn't think I needed a permit for anything like that because I wasn't adding anything to the structure. I was just improving what is already there, improving the fact that shells and other debris were going into the harbor. Now there's nothing going in the harbor at all. And the only reason I put the rail up is the last 2 years, or the first year I had a 2-year-old fall in, and last year I had a 3-year-old fall in. So it's more of a safety issue is why I put the rail up. So as far as all the concerns I'm trying to address is the runoff, it's no more than it ever was, nothing more has been created.
There's natural flooding there as well.
If you're going to make comments, sir, you're going to have to come up to the podium.
And as he said, there is natural flooding there. Just the other day, there was about a foot of water over my neighbor's property. So there's always water there. And I know that one of the board members addressed the runoff of the awning of my next door neighbor. So since he brought it up, I may as well, keep going with that. There's a lot of water that sheds off onto my property, really, that hits the back of a flower box that I have put up between the properties. So that is where a lot of that rain comes down. As a matter of fact, there's always a lot more rain that comes between the buildings when that awning is up. Now the trickle is down to about the size of a pinky in the video that I have. And I have compelling video from 3 different very major rainstorms in the last month, 3 different times that show all this.
Okay, Jeff?
So I just wanted to clarify all that.
Okay, I'm just going to add the old record into this one so that people can review it. I think 3 of us were on the board
Sure.
3 years ago. And I'm going to call for a motion to close this hearing until we vote it next week.
That is my motion.
Thank you.
Second.
Are there any further comments? All in favor of the motion on the table, say aye.
Aye.
All, 1, 2. Tom, Courtney. All opposed? Unanimous, so moved. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks.
Vote orders of conditions, Lot 2, 0 Nashawina Street, Matthew R. and Russelyn Seiler.
Quorum, Lori, Mike, Betsy, Tom, Tommy, and Court. Honey, how come you're on one Nashawina, but not the other Nashawina?
He's on both. She's talking about your record keeping.
You can find somebody else, you know.
I have a comment on this.
Hey, anybody that goes snorkeling to the underwater hazards cannot open.
Everybody remember this one?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, and
And which one is, wait a minute, which lot?
this is
You're right.
the house that's raised up on piles.
Oh,
This is the new one.
For redundancies on the
Well,
garage.
you and I visited this together, and your concern, which I told you to express, is the same as my concern. If you block anything, even if you have all these redundancies to pull up the shades, the tendency is for people to store stuff under there. And I'm just gonna point out that Jen and I represented you all at a workshop a couple of weeks ago, which was talking about changing coasts. And we gave a talk on the DCPC, but we heard a talk on Hull. And I don't know, you probably know Hull.
Yeah.
But Hull's up near Boston, and it has a, part of it is a this densely populated peninsula, Barrier Beach, that's packed with houses. And
Stills.
and, well, they actually have a really innovative system to get people to go up, but they actually pay people, they don't pay people, but they take $500 off the permitting process if they'll go up not only 2 feet, but they'll go 4 feet above the velocity zone. And what people have done is, they're willing to get another foot or two above to allow parking underneath. But they don't allow, right, but they don't allow anything underneath. It's just on pilings, which is actually what our regulations say. Open pilings,
Your regulations say open pipe.
open pilings.
And there are other people watching this hearing.
Yes, there are. In fact, I've had 3 people come up to me in the last 2 weeks saying, we're going to be watching to see what you decide with this.
So
So-
one of the biggest things in here is whether or not the board can allow the design with the roll-up or garage door type wall system underneath the structure.
What is the alternative? The breakaway panel?
No, the
That would be,
alternative
no,
is
that's
That's
that
an
is,
alternative.
that's an alternative.
And the other alternative would be open.
just open
Well,
pilings.
your regulations say open piling. Your regulations do not allow for a vertical wall in the velocity zone. Now, this board has to determine whether or not you consider breakaway panels, these roll-up things, to be a vertical wall in the velocity zone. It's your
Now,
reg.
just to
Can I
give
ask
you,
another question?
yeah, I want to give you a little history, too. Initially, we didn't allow them, and we did allow them in site-specific areas. For instance, somebody's house was like this, on a slope, and they had the vertical pilings here, but the slope was here. And in that case, we allowed them to have breakaway panels.
All right, now, are they breakaway panels on Surf Drive where I see the garages under the houses? And 2, can Tommy explain, or Tom, a little bit about breakaway panels?
We're on
Well,
Surf Drive.
first of all, I'll get to you.
under-
I know well, you're talking
Going
about,
down Surf Drive between the parking lot where they have the construction going on and Surf Drive Beach, there's 2 houses that have
Oh,
garages.
still houses.
The raised house.
No, there are raised
They're
houses,
new, they're new.
Yeah, but they're not
Not that
enclosed, I
new.
don't think. I think they're,
No, they have enclosed garages underneath.
On-
With doors.
On
Surf
the,
Drive.
on Surf Drive, on the, not the beach side, but the other side.
The other side, yeah. Not the beach side, the other side.
Ah,
Yes.
well, Walker Street
There's
has
two
some
of
like
them that
that.
I noticed when I was driving by, because I don't know that much about this. And I was curious if they have breakaway
sorry,
doors.
Lori, I am not placing which houses you,
Yeah,
I run
they do.
that area.
They do.
They do.
That's it.
The other,
They're probably constructed prior to this board having this regulation.
Lori,
so.
the other case where we allowed it to have breakaway panels, you guys will all remember this, is right off Mill Road, which actually there was a shed. There was like a 150 square foot shed, and they put a 300 square foot garage, a 300 square foot building on stilts, and we allowed them to enclose it. You said, how are these panels gonna work with the house? And Mike said, well, they're not gonna be there. The house won't, the car won't be there during a hurricane.
right.
But that was replacing a building that was already there. This is a case where there's no building.
In a sense, the fact that these are garage doors and they get to be opened prior to a storm coming. Obviously, if somebody's storing something underneath, they're gonna wanna move it, whether it's a car or whatever it is. But the assumption under this system is that they would be raised prior to the storm coming, either through automatic devicing or a little guy going out and raising them physically. Because remember, we had a lengthy discussion
All
about
the
that. Now, that's
redundancies.
gonna, in a sense, I see a difference between that and a breakaway panel. A breakaway panel is only gonna function when the floodwaters hit it,
Right.
whereas this is gonna open up ahead of time. So that raises an interesting question in terms of
Sounds more beneficial.
the function of, in other words, the function of the regulation says they're gonna be open pilings. Well, in effect, there will be open pilings when the storm comes, which is when we're actually concerned about this issue.
Well, it is, if, it all goes down to, how do you enforce something like that? I've been through 2 major hurricanes.
No,
I know that this would not be a top priority of people to look, to take care of. There are a lot of other things to take care of when a hurricane's coming. You want to get your boat out of the
Well,
water.
that's
Well,
why I
and
said,
I have
you
to-
have to have some kind
I
of
have,
operational system.
a good part of the company I work for, that's what we do. You know, that's where, we have one whole division just for that,
Right.
you know, and that's a slew of men that, you don't want to do that because you have multiple properties and a boat and you're dealing with all this. You may not physically go and get your boat out, but you make that call, or you call us, or you call your caretaker, and they go down. The storm panel, if I could back up, when you say breakaway panel, there's many different sizes and varieties. There's from the size of a cement block, it just has a flow-through, all right? That if there's a buildup of water, it goes through that. There's others that are actually masonry walls. A breakaway panel, there's a set amount of resistance that's engineered for whatever tidal event it is, and it allows that in. Some literally break away, others do not. Others are on cables, they're on hinges. Some of them, Mark Hutker's office right on the harbor, those just blow in. His whole office is there. You know, and that's why I can't get hung up on sometimes on what's going to be kept up there. How do we enforce this? Through the whole town, there's houses and businesses that do not comply and have.
But that doesn't mean we should
But just hold
continue
on, no, hold on. That don't comply, that contribute to a storm event. When this is presented to us, you have to take and look at it, well, you don't have to, but how I'm looking at it is, when these are raised because of a storm event, it would behoove them not to have anything underneath there, because where's it gonna go? Right? And I think that's their intent, that's how they presented it. They don't wanna have it for storage. However, having the panels on the house increases the efficiency of this building like you cannot believe. It makes this a much more user-friendly home. Your building envelope is now enclosed. You don't have elements just eating away at everything in the world. And I think this is a huge step forward. Now, not all the house has these panels, or what they have. Part of this is open piling, and it's going to be no matter what. It has that underneath the bedroom area. It's only one section. This portion over here is the one that has the,
It's two
exactly.
sections.
Correct. But there's one section that doesn't have any panels at all. So, you know, I look at it as they didn't take two bites out of the apple because they didn't go for the whole entire structure to enclose it. I just saw this as being creative, trying to keep something that,
Somebody help me. Go on, Tom, I'm listening.
that's
Yeah.
open.
I know that's open. What's that?
That's a panel, that
Panel.
rolls up.
That's the panel that rolls up. What's that?
That
Accordion's
rolls up.
And that rolls up.
That rolls up.
What about this side wall right
That
here?
rolls up.
How is this side wall gonna roll up and this roll up at the same time?
Turn the
Different heights.
Accordion's up.
Oh, an accordion's Tom. I'm thinking like
Or
a
is it roll
garage
up
door
like this?
going in.
Yeah,
If
this
it
could
rolls
be,
up like a garage door.
Well, if it rolls up like a garage door, it
No,
goes
it's like a
in.
corrugated door, right, that
one
goes on a
of
spool.
them, one could be, there's,
Well, there's
So
different
how
ways
does
you
the
could do
side
that.
door go?
You
If
can have it
this
at different
door's
heights.
going in, how does this door go in
something
unless
goes
they're?
above it or
Okay.
below
Have
it.
it at different
It's either like in the city, a big storefront door that
Oh, I
comes
see.
down.
Yeah, that's what I thought, and I
Or it
couldn't
could
understand.
I just
have,
want
I
to
think she
point,
was saying accordion's up in sections.
I just want to point something out to you, Tom. And this is something
So there's
that,
gonna be 1, 2,
Jen.
3, 4,
Jen,
8 sections.
this is something the board has to remember for not just this project, for every project. I'm sure the people who presented it to us intend to have it operate this way. However, we all know that we don't permit something for people. We permit what the structure is. Courtney, are you listening?
Yeah.
What the structure is and what impact it has on the environment. Because none of us know who's gonna own this house the next year, 2 years down, 10 years down. And whether they would intend to operate it, or these things will still be operational 10 years down the line. So you have to consider that.
You have to consider that, and I understand, Tom, what you're saying about you could look all around town. But why add more structure in your velocity zone? When I've seen this board allow these types of wall constructions, you have always said you're removing a structure that's non-compliant and making it more compliant. So the structure that was already there
Like the one on Mill Street.
was worked on the environment, Mill Street, Little Island Road, allowed that.
Yep.
This, you're right, you're taking an empty lot, and now you're putting an enormous structure on it. Well, enormous. Well, when you combine both and everything, the whole.
In my opinion, I think with those doors that go straight up and get out of the way, it should relieve basically all of the concerns that people have with breakaway panels, being that, I mean, it's like a convertible, except when it rains, they come up.
I guess you're more trusting than I am then.
and I have to agree with them, because you don't go to,
So are we, you know, is what's gonna happen is there's a storm, and we know a storm's coming, and those of us who live near there go down, and we say, well, wait a second, it's not there, and I call Jen and I say,
This house is gonna
I'm
have
not
so much staff.
responsible for calling anybody on this, you know, this is,
no, you see what I
You
mean?
need to stop making enforcement issues.
No, do you
Okay,
see what I
now-
mean? How do
now,
you know that this is,
what happens,
how
just,
is this enforceable?
what happens if, okay, we'd have just open pilings underneath there, and they put a grill underneath there, and then they put a sailfish on a small trailer, and they put all their bicycles underneath the open pilings. And a storm comes and they do nothing with it. Then what? What enforcement do we have with that? This is presented on offering a solution to what we had as an issue. I think this is creative. I stand corrected, I'm part of this. The doors on it's not all the way around, it's the front and the back. It's the water side and the street side.
So you do have vertical.
You have,
No,
yeah, I think that,
this is the end, gable end. There-
right, I don't know if those panels lift. I'm looking at that, and
I'm assuming they
I
do.
thought you said three sides.
And it's not, I'm gonna disagree with you on one thing, Tom, I don't think it's a solution, because there's no problem here right now. There's no issue on this lot right now, it's an empty lot.
Yep,
So they're creating a structure.
yes.
And
Yes,
once
they
you
do.
combine it into patio,
And the only-
walkways, and the other one, when you take it as one big complex, yes, Mike, it is going to be a substantial complex.
But we're looking at as just, I'm not gonna,
No, you guys have
Disagree
to
with
make
that,
the
yeah.
decision. The staff wants you to follow your regulations say open containers. As I said, there are a number of people watching this hearing, and people getting ready to retrofit projects that have already been approved. You know, you should vote your regulations say open piling, that is going to be decided for. So along with that,
Are there any other issues? And then we
that's
can
what I
come
was gonna
back
get
with
to.
this.
Tom,
Yes.
septic,
I,
underground water flow. Your
he's got,
seep from underneath the wall.
well, I don't know where it generates from. And he's got separation up here. He's got the system up as far away as possible from other resource areas, and he's claiming to have the separation, and I don't have anything to the contrary. And he does have the one-bedroom in perpetuity, so that structure
That
would
has to
never,
be, yeah.
that structure would never have anything other than
Make sure,
one bedroom.
Jen, that that's a finding and a condition, that has to be recorded with the deed. I mean, they say it will, but
Yeah, but
let's
that's,
reinforce that.
Oh, the one bedroom?
the one bedroom, yeah.
All right.
No, the,
They did a nice job with the invasive removal and the restoration, I feel. So I think the only issues here were, you know, obviously the makeup of the house, and two, the concerns you had about the septic. Spring under the thing, the outfall cutting along the bank, Tom.
yeah, I think the out-hall was on the other property.
Okay.
The one that I saw was on
10,
10.
lot 110, Nashville.
The cutting was addressed because it was,
It'll be addressed in the restoration.
right,
The buffer, which property is the buffer to the secondary bank?
this one, yeah.
And you do need to make a finding, you actually do
submitted
need
a
to make a
new-
finding on
didn't
that
have
coastal
the-
bank.
It did have the buffer on it. That there's a fragmented coastal bank.
Yeah, you wanna see that plan, Mike? They submitted it
He did
afterwards,
submit it. I asked
remember,
that.
they put it, you asked for it
Yeah.
afterwards.
Okay, I didn't see it.
So if
But
you're
we
not
didn't
gonna,
get it.
I
We
mean,
just
it,
submitted a plan to Jen.
yeah. And they put it in very light gray. It's right there. Of course, Mike didn't go there. Shouldn't let him go in there. What timing, Jackie?
That's like the Falmouth Velocity
Yeah,
Zone.
if
It's
the
always
board
put
is
in,
not gonna
it's always
uphold-
put in the lightest possible.
Yeah.
It's like, you're like, is it there?
If you need to make a determination that the bank is buffer to that bank, to the bank.
They've overcome the
that
presumptions.
they've overcome the presumptions.
Yeah, I mean, I think
Okay.
it's just a little fragmented.
I guess it doesn't. in
What
this-
was that, Mike?
I'm
Yeah.
happy, I'm happy. I've seen it, yeah.
I like it as presented,
What do you mean?
What version?
with the doors, that have the redundancies.
I do as well.
What's that?
I can make a motion to accept,
Yeah.
accept the order, how would I want to, accept the order as presented and discussed.
Presented.
Yeah.
I second that.
What does,
Okay, I'm just going to tell you, I'm going to vote against it for all the reasons that I said, even though the rest of the project I think is fine. With all 4 redundancies.
so basically, the motion is to accept an order that approves this system.
Yes.
Okay.
With the 4
With 4
redundancies.
redundancies.
With the what? Yeah. Betsy, and Jen, I absolutely agree that our regulations are quite clear about the fact that the houses have to be on pilings and there's no walls or
Open-
anything like that.
Open piling.
Open pilings. And I think that you have to understand the purpose of that, and that is that there be no obstruction of the, man-made obstruction placed in the way of the flow of water, flood water.
Just
and
like
velocity.
Hull.
Because, and I would say that of all the designs of breakaway panels and other things that we've looked at over the years, this actually addresses the thing the most effectively because the doors raise before the floodwaters get there, and therefore there's no obstruction. And there's nothing to break loose and fly all over the place. So in a sense, I think that we can approve this with a specific finding that, this type of arrangement with the redundancies in it essentially meets the spirit of the regulation.
Well, you can say that. I'll tell you what I think, Courtney. Jen and I know, have seen your barn.
Jen, and you what?
Have seen your barn.
Yeah.
When people have an enclosed space, they accumulate a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And while I agree with you that people could store a lot of people would park their car underneath, or in the summertime, they might have lawn furniture and so forth. If something's enclosed, they're gonna have a lot of stuff there. They're gonna have workout equipment and boxes of paperwork, et cetera.
The redundancy is also based on the owner and not the property. And I think that's, from a staff point of view, that's where you're, if you approve the project.
It's based on equipment installed.
It's based on equipment installed.
Based on equipment installed, are you gonna tell me that that equipment's always gonna be 100% functional?
No,
Nothing's 100%.
But the guy coming and opening them and
That's
installing
her
them is
point.
100% functional.
That's her point.
The structure is not 100% proof, because you're building a structure. You're better off, we're back to the same issue, is that we're better off if we don't do anything. Every system in the town is better off if we don't do anything. But we're going to accommodate human beings as best we can.
Yeah,
We have
and
the
Jen
same
and I
problem.
happen to think that has to do with if you're building in the
Okay.
velocity
Can
zone,
I-
you're on open pilings.
All right, there is, getting back, we have a problem, or not a problem, we have an issue that says, we have regulations that says it must be open. What does it take us to change that regulation?
a lot more than you want to know. It's,
That's something.
What I'm getting at is
no.
we say, okay, you're gonna build this thing as it is, you're gonna build it with no panels right now, you're gonna have when you're building it, you'll have all the tracks in place to do it, and if the regulations change, you can retrofit, just as any other one can.
You wouldn't
That's an
even,
alternative.
yeah.
You can just say, right now, you're gonna follow the regulation. We don't think the regulation is current with best practices today. But we're gonna require everybody to follow that until we change it.
Well, you say that, I don't, but,
Well, that's okay. I mean,
Anybody remember the damage from Sandy? And then just bring it up.
Well, I like
looking at
Mike's-
grants
I like Mike's,
because these areas.
I like Mike's suggestion better. You build it in place to do that, and you can retrofit if we change the regulations.
and if we do that, we're putting a promise out to the community. When do we get around to starting the process to change the regulation? Because I don't wanna make a false promise.
I think that this
I
does,
mean, if that's, I mean, we can and we have changed one part of one regulation. There's a lot that has to be addressed in that regulation,
In that section, yes.
in that section.
has to
But we could address this one section next month. We could, this one,
Madam Chairman, I'm down a staff member, okay? Just to let the board know, if you don't know, that we're a little stretched, a little thin right now to start looking at an overhaul of your regulation. And if we're gonna do land subject to coastal storm flowage, we're gonna do the whole thing. Because it's ridiculous to do one section of that and piecemeal that regulation together. You're gonna look at that regulation as a whole, and that means addressing the velocity zone issues in this town. That's staff's recommendation. I think you should look at it completely if you're going to address that section. Don't just take one subsection of that and look at it, and look at the whole regulation. And how does the Conservation Commission want to deal with the increased flood zone maps and everything else, and the increased, flooding issues in the town? The planning department's looking at it, the planning board is discussing it. How is this town going to address coastal storm issues? That is not something that you can knee-jerk reaction because you want a particular project to go forward, yet your regulation is not allowing that. That's not the way you should look at approaching that regulation at all. But that's opinion. And if the board would like to change that subsection next month.
no, I actually agree with you. And this is the regulation we said we would address next.
Yes, and we should, because you might actually have to do it anyway. Because we may have to reference the new flood insurance rate maps in your regulations.
So what I could say to you is, to answer your question, because it takes a long time to change regulations, I can tell you that, a number of public hearings.
Last time,
But-
when we changed the buffer zone regs, it took 16 public hearings in about 10 months, I think.
But
So
what,
it's not something we can just do.
but what we can do is, we could start the process in the beginning of January as a group. As a group, we can have a subcommittee that gets together. We already discussed that we'd like to have a couple of people come in and give us presentations. We could set that up,
Okay.
and we could start working on it.
well, we've come full circle. And there is a motion and a second. And I believe it is to either approve or deny the project as presented with the storm panels, overhead doors, whatever, those pieces.
Vote on it.
What are they exactly? Are they the equivalent? I'm gonna take
It's
that.
lifting panels is what they
Well, they're lifting
describe.
panels like that.
Yeah, and
garage door,
when,
like,
yeah, and when this first came in front of us, I remember a fairly positive reaction in general. And I still feel that way. I think that this does accomplish
Oh, here it is.
as I'm going to borrow it from Courtney, the intent of that when in a storm event, it is an open pile structure, that these are panels, I don't know, I just don't want to, my motion is to do it as presented, but I don't want to see this project denied because of those panels, because without those, it's more palatable to others, and is in more.
I'm thinking exactly what you're thinking. I don't want to take a vote on this and have people deny it because it doesn't meet regulations. I would
Yeah,
rather,
that's-
I would rather go with Mike's suggestion.
And they don't
That we
even,
approve it without, that everything can be put in place, but the actual panels can't be put in place until
well, you wouldn't,
that's an acceptable.
you wouldn't do that. You'd just, at some point in time, you'd have that in mind. You wouldn't even put a partial system in. You'd just have it, you'd make accommodations for it and retrofit and an amendment or whatever. You wouldn't, because who knows, the regulation may not change, and therefore.
Right,
you've
why
got-
put stuff in that you don't need?
So it is what it is. The size of the structure would not change, so any of the retrofit, whatever, or application of in the future would be the same as it would, you just wouldn't do it at this point in time. I'm going to revise my motion to approve the project with the finding that the panels, as well-intended as they are, conflict with the verbiage of
Our regulation.
our regulation. That's it. That's what I got.
So
what
you're
is that?
saying approve it with open pilings?
Correct,
Approve the project as presented with open pilings.
correct. At this point in
At this
time,
point,
because.
and then if they want, they
and
could come
with
back
the
for an
finding that-
amendment.
With a finding that, we're, yeah.
Well, they're gonna come back and tell us the same thing again. I thought that was a good answer to the problem.
I thought so as well, but it's just, I don't want to take a vote here and have this denied
I hear you.
because of that, so I'm trying to, I'm dancing on
I hear you.
top of the fence.
My sense is that you're looking at about, it's gonna be a question of either tie or, what do we got, 1, 2, 3, 6?
7,
So
6.
we have 6, so if it was
But
a
it doesn't
tie,
meet the regulations.
it's a denial, right?
Right.
So he just had a new,
I revised my
he
motion
revised a motion. Do
as
we have
best
a-
I can. That's
do we-
all I got,
Do we
guys.
have a revised second?
Yes.
Okay, you know what the motion is, Courtney? To approve the project with open pilings.
I understand what the motion is, I'm just thinking.
Susan, are you with me? There's a motion and the second on the table to approve the project as presented, minus the sliding panels with open pilings. Is everybody ready? You want to think?
No, I've already got mine.
You okay? All in favor of the motion on the table, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed?
Yes.
That was the first one.
Yeah, but I think the others will be quicker.
It's awesome.
Lot 1, 10 Nashwina Street, Matthew R. and Russell and Seiler.
Same form, the only issue was they need to remove the shed with the building permit, the building department, or zoning, they have a zoning issue with their shed. In the front yard,
Right.
Right.
and I don't think there was any other issues on that particular.
I
That's what the-
wondered
that's
how
what the-
they got a shed in the front yard when Sari told me I couldn't have a garage in front of my house.
Because there's,
It's just a portable shed. It's not
Can I
uncommon.
have a portable garage?
you have a chance to drop
Sure.
those things anyway.
Yeah, Yeah, they, you know, it's, if,
We break out
At
panels.
Home Depot, and they'll come and
Break out
print.
panels.
yeah, it's just,
A lot of people come put it where.
Can I have it big, can I have it big enough to fit my car? My car's probably less than 100.
You ever
What
seen
is
those race car
200 square
trailers?
feet.
The
200,
enclosed race car trailer?
Yeah, that's
You
what I
need a
need.
permit for that.
no, no, you,
Can we have a motion?
but in a velocity zone?
Not if it's registered.
Accept
No, I'm not in
the
velocity zones.
order as discussed.
Second.
One other comment, that, this is the one that had the outhaul down
The
at the water.
remove the alcohol.
All in favor of the motion on the table, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous, so moved. 365 Sherwood Drive, Linda and Richard Salmon.
Now, what if you had that enclosed trail in a velocity zone though, down like on Surf
Sherwood
Drive?
Drive.
If it was registered, it wouldn't matter.
I know,
Do we
but
have
I'm
a-
saying, you know, what's the,
What do the,
Lori, Mike, Betsy, Tom, Courtney. We're gonna put more stuff
one
in
is
that
this?
zone?
Sherwood Drive.
thank you.
Can you refresh my memory?
Yep.
That's not.
Step down.
And,
This is the one,
This is the one that
yeah,
dropped a little bit here?
yes, yeah, the bonsais.
This is the one where all of the trees were chopped, right?
336 Sherwood, yeah, they're all one uniform height.
So what can we do
the
about
guy had a good
that?
eye, you gotta give him credit.
I think, that- yeah,
Yeah.
So what can you do about it?
It's a naturally occurring phenomenon,
isn't
isn't it?
They have that alcohol as well that I want removed in salt marsh. They
Yep.
have that big like little anchor.
yep.
So remove the alcohol. And in this case, Lori, I think,
Letting it grow.
yeah, you were just gonna have to let the trees grow and you'll have to monitor the trees, so that the strongest leader on the trees grows up. They may have to prune back, because
Prune
what's
them
gonna
back to 3
happen
liters.
is
So
when
we're
the
gonna
tree grows,
condition that
it's
they
just
have to
gonna
do.
start regenerating. So they're gonna have to find the strongest leader and have an arborist come and work with those trees. Doing that to a tree is almost more damaging and it almost defeats the purpose because then you're just gonna have more growth in your view shed. So, but to require them to remove or replant is gonna be fairly damaging. I mean, it's.
Yeah, the area
thick,
looks great the way it is.
It's just all one height
Yeah.
with some really oak trees that kind of look like a
This
little.
is special species.
And then there's all that stuff here.
So basically, does the board want a
Yeah, but that's
condition
next
that,
door neighbor.
that
Oh, no.
happened in the buffer?
No.
That the
Pardon me?
buffer was uniformly cut, including trees, and that you'd
I'm
like.
sure it was that wasp.
Well, like the tree,
They don't get a certificate of compliance until we see substantially improved
So
buffer
we'll make a
height
finding on
and
the
diversity.
buffer, and then a special condition that they work with the Austin Harbor, and have to let us know for
Certified
And perhaps give us a report each year.
each year.
And they're not gonna get a COC until,
And other than that, I did have concern with that, those oaks, but you said that that
I
won't
think
be a
that'll be,
problem.
yeah. I
No.
mean, if they do have a problem, they can come back in.
Exactly.
They didn't think they would. I think it would be nice to have it there.
Okay, that's fine.
Yep.
Run that like this.
Motion to accept the order as discussed.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All
Aye.
opposed? Unanimous, so moved. 25 Point Road.
The Purple House.
Formerly Purple House.
I think that's all of us too.
Seriously, went flying right by it. I was looking for a huge purple house.
I came back and told Jen about this because of the tree that we saw, Lord.
Yep.
And Jen's like, oh, the purple house. And I said, it wasn't purple.
It's purple. And when I say purple, I'm like your sweater purple.
It was.
we can't say anything about our request that they try to save that tree because it's out of our jurisdiction.
It's completely out. It's not even in the flood zone.
Well, we can make a finding that they said that they would entertain saving the tree, that
Saving
they
some
would,
of the
Yeah.
specimen trees in the front yard. Yeah.
right.
Absolutely.
That definitely was a finding.
You've got to ask chemical is the present, so you don't get the
Yeah, exactly. There's nothing else, though. I mean,
No,
this was
there was
all-
some, yep. Motion to accept the order as presented with the finding
Did you want to move?
that
Okay.
they got it.
You want to move in the septic?
The limit of work,
No.
bringing it in just a little bit, doesn't have to go all the way out to the outside edge there. But it doesn't make it.
Doesn't matter, it's all
Yeah,
done, right?
exactly,
We're gonna replan it.
right.
Okay, you made a motion, do we have a second?
Yeah,
Second, Courtney?
yeah, I'll second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second on the table to approve 25 Point Road as discussed, including the specimen fridge. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, unanimous, so moved. 31 and 39 Norton Circle.
The whole way down.
Oh,
This is
that's
the
why they
pool.
had the two houses, because even though the pool is just on one of them, the
The
two,
properties are owned
Are owned by
by
one
one owner,
person.
and they're kind of making a little compound.
Yeah, yeah.
And you put part of the pool fence and part of the pool.
Right,
I don't think the pool, but just the pool fence.
Or gate is on the.
the gate is on his
property.
father's
Right.
property,
It's gonna be a saltwater pool.
saltwater pool, yep.
It's just gonna be a shame that all the cedars, between the two houses are removed, and they're all coming down. He just shows the ones, he just
That-
lists the ones in
that
your
are in the jurisdiction, right.
Jurisdiction, yeah.
A bunch more outside of your jurisdiction, and they're all gone, and that's unfortunate, that's just the nature of the project.
I think the red cedars they're putting in the location they're putting them in is a good mitigation.
Mm-hmm, yes.
Yes, I did, there was a.
Any satisfied, the pool equipment with me, so.
Yep.
Motion to approve the project as discussed.
second.
Okay,
They're
motion,
putting the pool equipment in that little proposed addition.
right,
Correct.
right. Motion and second to approve the project as discussed. He seconded.
I made the motion,
You made
and
the
Lloyd,
I got you.
yep.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, unanimous, so moved. 430 Davisville Road, Unit 2.
The raise and rebuild.
Yeah,
The
that
only
little,
question I have is whether or not they're gonna have a walkway or anything from where they park their car.
right, and they're gonna walk across the sandy ground, like they are.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the,
Project.
Yeah, it was nice that it wasn't. Do we have a motion?
I'll move to accept the order as proposed, discussed.
Second.
Got that? All in favor of the motion on the table, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, unanimous, so moved.
I'm not on the next one, right?
No, you're not on the next one.
209.
Excuse me for a minute.
Okay. 209 County Road.
Why wouldn't there be on it? It's an amendment.
Oh, it was an amendment, you are on it. You can go, though, if you want, we have enough people.
This is, they're doing work on the Gansett wall from the top
Yep,
as opposed to the bottom.
Yep.
I'm gonna need, and at least the raft is already, aware, like, we're gonna ask for weekly.
yeah, this is gonna be,
That's gonna be a tight,
it's gonna be like hugely tight. But it's something, the contractor seemed aware of it, you know, and I'll be sticking my ugly snot nose in there, being a pain.
Okay, could I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve the amendment,
Second?
yeah.
You got that? Tom Courtney, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous, so moved.
weekly visit.
63 Quonset Road. This is removal of invasives.
Yeah, that's,
It's Quonset, yeah, working with Maria Hickey,
Yep,
can be removing invasives, going to try smothering them with her pulse.
yep.
That's fine, like I said, we were doing it a lot
Yeah.
in the project, and,
Do
this
I have a
is
motion?
a motion to accept the order as discussed.
Second?
Second.
You with me? Okay, there's a motion and a second on the table to approve 63 Quonset Road. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous, so moved. 53 Quonset Road.
Same project.
Same
Same
stand,
project, next door.
same motion.
Same motion,
Same
same
second.
second. Okay. Motion second on the table to approve 53 Quonset Road. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous, so moved. Green Pond Dredge, you'll have to give us the
That was an amendment.
Yeah, no,
Oh.
we know what it
It's
is.
quorum. It was an
No.
amendment. Oh,
No,
no.
no, we had 2 hearings on it, 3 hearings, 2 hearings, 2 times we had to take
Mike,
testimony.
Betsy, Tom's on it.
Mike, Betsy,
Tom's
Tom,
on it too, but she's not even.
Tommy.
That's,
It's just the extension.
Yeah.
Extending the dredging channel.
Extending
off
the
Cape
dredging.
Pond.
okay, I'm trying to find.
Yeah, I didn't have
Timing
any,
year restrictions, the whole thing.
Yeah.
I thought, yeah,
I didn't have any, I mean, they covered what the issues were. This is, they're gonna extend the dredging.
Most likely,
Right.
the
For
dredge
415
spoils in this
feet.
case are gonna go on either the Acapesket Association Beach or on Pines Beach on the other side.
Either side, right. Both of whom have permits to accept it.
Tom, the other.
a site plan.
It wasn't a huge site plan, it
was,
was 11 by 17.
Yep. Yeah,
This
that
is
was
the
the
one
one.
that didn't
Done by
have, this
Wood
is, we didn't have engineer stamp on.
I have it right here if you want.
Thank you.
Okay, and we'll get them to put an engineered stamp on it.
I believe that's,
It says
The
something else
finding
there,
that
sorry.
improvement dredging,
That's all.
timing year restrictions,
Okay, thank you, yep.
we needed
Yep,
natural
yep.
heritage to sign off, they did.
Do I have a motion?
We have horseshoe crab restrictions and everything, cover restrictions. Yeah.
Motion, please.
Motion to accept the order as discussed.
Second.
All in favor of the motion on the table, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous, so moved.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor of the motion to adjourn, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous, so moved.
how to get shot.
If you guys